Hey guys, welcome to Daily Bible Study. Happy New Year to you. This is the first daily Bible study that I have done with you since we've kicked over into 2024. So welcome. We're back into the book of Genesis, and we restarted our reading Saturday. And so we were 1, 2, and 3 Saturday, 4, 5, and 6 Sunday. And then today our chapters were Genesis 7, 8, and 9. So hopefully you had a chance to read those passages. But if you haven't, we're in the flood narrative in these passages, right? So the first 11 chapters of Genesis, many scholars believe, make up a greater span of time than the whole of the Old Testament combined. So it's a great deal of data in these first 11 chapters, a lot of time in that. But one of the things that you see in Genesis, and so from the very beginning, you see in Genesis where we see the creation narrative taking shape. And there's a phrase that's used in Genesis 1 where it says, God blessed them and said to them, be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it, rule over the fish of the sea and the birds of the air and every creature that moves on the ground, right? So he gives them this command to be fruitful and multiply. But we know what happens. If you've read the biblical story before, there's a fall, they're kicked out of the garden, cast out down to the earth. And there's a separation now between God and humanity. And so now we see the flood taking shape. We know that there is a narrative that we have discussed before about the sons of God coming and having sexual relations with the daughters of men, offspring being born to them, known as the Nephilim, and then the wickedness all around the world, right? So there's a lot going on and a lot of narratives that we've seen here, right? But in the flood narrative, we see God's intentionality in decreating things and bringing it back to a post-creation where the waters cover the face, right? So there's chaos again, and then God brings order back to it. So there's this recreation that's taking shape. And why? Because things kind of got out of hand, right? Genesis 6 says that the wickedness of humanity was complete. There was nothing that they didn't do that wasn't wicked. So then at the conclusion of this flood cycle, we see God making another covenant with humanity. And so in chapter 9, which is one of the chapters that we were to read today, it says again in verse 1, then God blessed Noah and his sons and said to them, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth. Right? So again, he gives them that same commission. This is similar to what we see in other passages. We see I read to you one in verse 28, but we also see that in verse 22 of chapter 1. It's also something we see later on in chapter 8, and then in verse 9, or chapter 9, what we see here in this way. So there's several different ways where this is played. And what is this giving us an opportunity to see today? I think if you read the Bible and the biblical narrative, what you will see is God's intentionality in being faithful to his creation. If God wanted to destroy and just start over completely, he would have. But what did he do when he was recreating the earth? He made a covenant with with Noah. And he told Noah that he was going to spare him because he was a righteous man, the text says. And his children were considered righteous because of him. And so there's this connection here of God's sparing, right? And then the ark being used as a form of salvation. We see that narrative playing out, right? And so as God's recreating things, he's showing his faithfulness. I think that teaches us something about God in the Bible. And the narrators were intentional about revealing to us this notion of God's faithfulness in this way. And so as you go throughout your time of study this year, and as you reflect on the nature of God, I hope that you can see his heart for creation and his heart for humanity, that even in the midst of chaos, he is making a way for there to be order. And all of that is culminating and leading up to, we know, Christ's incarnation and his life, ministry, and death and resurrection, his ascension and his eventual return that we are hopefully waiting for. So let's be encouraged this new year to seek after the heart of God, because it is all throughout the scripture narrative. I love you guys. I hope that you can be blessed tonight and the rest of this year. Cheers to you.